Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mio on MMA podcast, talking about UFC 321, which is coming to you from the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi and the former home of Fight Island, if I do recall correctly. Anyways, this is a pretty good card. We have two title fights up top, which I have mixed feelings about because I do think that they are both not the title fight that should be actually happening, just on a purely merit-based system. That being said, I do also understand why both of them were made. We have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista in a really, really good fight. We have Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida, which is a very meaningful heavyweight fight. It's also a fight that could be kind of crap, but that is the risk you run with heavyweight. Alexander Rakic looks to return to the winning column against Azamat Murzakanov. Nasrat Haqparast and Quillan Selkid is a fascinating fight to me. Ikram Aliskerov versus Jung Young Park, less so. Matush Rambeski versus Ludwig Klein, again, very fascinating. And then we have, I always forget this guy's first name, El Sawadi, Abdul Karim El Sawadi versus Matush Camilo. That's a fight I don't really like, but it could be an entertaining one. Walter Walker versus Louis Sutherland in heavyweight action. Jose Delgado versus Nathaniel Wood. Chris Barnett versus Hamdi Abdel-Wahad. Azat Maxim versus Mitch Raposo. And Jacqueline Amarim versus Mizuki Inoue. So all in all, it's a pretty good card. There's a lot of very fascinating fights on here. There's a couple that are not. But before we get into the fights, let's do the usual. We have to talk about fight betting here. I am going to be talking about fight betting. I'm going to be talking about my betting. I'm going to be talking about betting odds. And I'm going to be giving you information that you could absolutely use to bet on these fights. However, I see this on Twitter all the time or on various social media platforms. People who have bet way too much on MMA. This is a chaotic sport. This is a very hard to predict sport. This is a very volatile sport. There are the fact that people come in injured all the time. There is the fact that a fight can change like that because of the small gloves and how hard people can hit because of those small gloves. And most importantly, the fact that there is often, how should I put this, big steps forward and big steps backwards by fighters and crappy coaching. So do not be out there dropping 4 figures, 5 figures on fights if you cannot afford it, because you will, not overall, but you will periodically lose money on these. And that should guide your wallet in any kind of betting scenario with this sport. So basically, I'm very anti-betting on this sport while doing it myself. So it is kind of hypocritical. Anyways, let's kick the pig. Let's get going here. I'm going to just adjust my microphone here for just a second. There we go. And let's kick it off. So in the main event, we have Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane for the UFC heavyweight title. Undisputed title for the first time in ages because, of course, before this, we had the whole Francis Ngannou situation. We had interbelts. We had John Jones fighting for a title and then refusing to fight the interim champion Tom Aspinall or anyone that mattered, instead fighting Stipe Miocic, which, again, I can't believe this has to still be talked about. But there are still people who are like, well, you're really just trying to undersell Stipe Miocic. You're trying to make it sound like he was a journeyman bum or something that was being fought by John Jones. No, he was the finest heavyweight in the world for a significant period of time. The longest reigning UFC heavyweight champion. And you could make a solid case, the GOAT of the division. However, by the time he fought John Jones, he was old, he was retired, and he couldn't really walk properly. Like, it was a waste of time to do that fight instead of John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Anyways, back to this fight. There's always an inherent problem with predicting heavyweight fights, and that is the fact that, generally speaking, they can turn on the absolute snap of fingers because we're talking about two big hitters here. And obviously that means that if you feel like Gane's going to win, I can't say that he can't. And if you feel like Aspinall's going to win, I can't see that he can't. There is not a lot of safety either way. I want Aspinall to win, so I want to get that out of the way first because there's a certain level of emotional bias here. And the reason for that is I don't want Cyril Gane, who laughably lost to John Jones. And also probably should have lost to Alexander Volkov in his last fight, which is why I don't like this being a title shot. I understand that on paper, he has the win over Volkov and as a result is in the picture for the title. That he is that guy. But go back and watch that fight and tell me that you thought after that fight, man, Cyril Gane for a title shot. That's something I want to sneak my teeth into. And of course, I went back and watched that fight again. So that's the problem. It's not the greatest robbery of all time, anything like that. There are 2 close rounds there that you could absolutely score for Gane. But it is not the kind of performance you want headed into a title fight. And there is the general frustration I have with Gane, because Gane, there's no reason Gane shouldn't be better than he is. He has all the physical talent in the world. He doesn't seem to actually have like a particularly aversion or like an inability to grapple like some guys do. And he's a very talented kickboxer and very, very athletic, very physical, has the tools. He's big. He's 6'4" with an 81-inch reach, which is very much, top end ability. But he makes terrible decisions in fights. And that's something I can't really abide. And it's also the lack of development, or at least permanent development in his game, because he'll go and get out wrestled by John Jones. There's no shame in getting out wrestled by John Jones. There's nothing. There's no shame in getting out wrestled by a guy like Francis Ngannou. But you put it together and it's like, okay, you just got out wrestled by a one-legged Ngannou, and it looks like you did nothing to shore up your wrestling game. Nothing at all. And then you fight Volkov, and it still looks like you haven't done anything to shore up your wrestling game at all. And on the ground, you make the lowest percentage choices possible. And you get away with that because you're a super physical specimen. But against the best guys in the world, you don't. Against Francis Ngannou, you don't. Against Alexander Volkov, you don't even. So, is there a game that Cyril Gane could play to win this fight? Absolutely. Oh my God. He has all the tools to put on an absolute masterclass of outside kickboxing against Aspinall, because Aspinall is not a stunningly great technical striker. He's really fast and hard hitting. That's what he does. It's not a technical thing. It's they say he has like welterweight speed, and that basically is it. He has the speed of a guy several weight classes below, while also hitting like a heavyweight. It's phenomenal. It's dangerous as all heck, and it's exciting to watch. I don't trust Gane to make proper decisions. I don't trust him to cape the range. I don't trust him to avoid a wrestling game if Aspinall tries to weaponize that to a certain degree, which he has done against people like Alexander Volkov. And that's why I have to pick Aspinall by TKO at some point. Gane is very, very tough, very, very durable. So who knows? Maybe he can just take a beating for 25 minutes. And maybe he takes a beating long enough for Aspinall to gas out, because we have seen Aspinall out of the first round exactly one time during his UFC run. So his cardio is a question mark. It's not like Gane is the only question mark in this, equation. There are very much 2 very unknowable variables. But I'm going to go with Aspinall. I trust what he's putting together in terms of coaching staff. I trust his team to have a good game plan. He seems to. As much as his keys to victory tends to be Hulk smash and knock you out in the first round, there tends to be thought, there tends to be decent ideas, and even some surprising tactics at times. So I trust him to have a game plan that is tailored to at least take advantage of what Gane gives and what Gane's strengths are. I don't trust Gane in any way, shape, or form to have the same. I trust Gane to come out and fight like a mindless yet technical zombie, essentially, with a complete lack of respect for his opponent, and for Aspinall to make him pay. I wish I could give a more concrete tactical breakdown of this fight, but we have one guy who we don't generally see out of the first round, and we have one guy who makes bad decisions. So it's hard to pin down what that's going to look like. Betting-wise, Aspinall is the favorite at minus 400 to minus 460, plus 300 to plus 320 on Gane is the odds. Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. Strawweight title fight, as Weili Zhang is going to do the 125 thing, which is overdue, because there's really, after beating Tatiana Suarez, there's no one really interesting. It would have been cool, sure, for us to see Virna Jandiroba get a shot at her just to complete things, but it was not needed. This doesn't really feel like the title fight, because it probably should be Tatiana Suarez in this position. It wouldn't make the fight all that much more interesting to me, This is interesting. That would be interesting. Neither of them are can't miss, like salivating at the mouth yet. But like there still is a sort of bad feels that like Mackenzie Dern's getting this title shot while being by the UFC's own logic a number 5 ranked contender because she's hot and fans appreciate that booty. And this fight's happened before. Mackenzie Dern won it. And they're both different fighters now than they were then. Verna in particular has improved notably. And that is why she definitely has a chance going into this. But I do have to pick Dern. And the reason I have to pick Dern is the same reason I picked her the first time. I have a hard time picking Verna against people who she does not have a grappling advantage over. She's been trying very, very hard to work on her striking, to become a more complete fighter, to become less reliant on that. And we have seen that by, for example, beating Ketiko Murata without actually scoring a takedown. For example. But like, at the same time, she also had sub-attempted that one. So even that was not without grappling. So yeah, it's as inconsistent as Mackenzie Dern's striking is, and it's the great mystery of her game, is that there are fights of hers where I'm like, wow, this Jason Perillo coaching is really paying off. This boxing looks better. That jab looks nice. There's a follow-up. There's combination trees. There are things happening here that are great. And then it will go away later in that fight or the next fight when she suddenly doesn't know how to strike. So there is a chance she comes out here and she doesn't know how to strike. And she's not a good wrestler. She's not a good takedown artist. That's the predominant limitation of her as a BJJ fighter in MMA, is that she does not wrestle well. And Verna actually just kind of outpaces her on the feet and does her thing. But I can't pick that. There's also the physicality here. Like, Dern can hurt Verna. I don't honestly think the opposite is true. I don't really think Verna can hurt Mackenzie Dern. And I trust that Jen or Hoba, if she wants to, can take takedowns. I don't like her odds on the feet or on the ground with Dern. Not that she's going to get submitted or anything, but that she might just get out dynamicism and put in bad spots, and Dern wins. Dern wins that way anyways. We've seen Dern do that before, end up on bottom and actually weaponize that into top control. So I'm going with Dern. I'll be cheering for Verna because I'd love to see her with the belt. And I'd also love to see Dana be very, very unhappy. I know this makes me an evil, ungrateful UFC fan, but that's the case. The odds are slightly in Dern's favor. She's a minus 148 to minus 163. Verna's plus 120 to plus 135. That makes sense. This should be a close fight because I find Verna to be the more reliable fighter, but Dern has the higher ceiling in a nutshell. And if Dern fights to her potential, she's the more dangerous, more dynamic, more big moment fighter. And that should carry her to a win either by stoppage or by decision by having the big moments in the rounds. Moving on down, we have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista now. I'm picking Umar. Let's get that out of the way. He is the better boxer of the two, I think. He is the better wrestler of the two, I think. He is the better grappler of the two, I think. And while Bautista probably fights at a higher pace and maybe is even a little bit better at range, and particularly in the clinch and transitional phases, that's not going to be enough for me to pick him to win this fight. Now, this being said, there is the fact that I do think the odds here are a bit insane. Umar is a minus 600 to minus 650 favorite. Keep in mind that this guy, outside of beating Corey Sandhagen, his next best win is Ronnie Barcelos. I do think we're getting carried away. I understand that Bautista's biggest wins have asterisks next to him as well. Aldo because he's old and now retired. Patchy Mix because he's had a follow-up fight that was really, really underwhelming, and also now has a PED bust to his name. So things are not looking good for Patchy Mix, and that kind of really devalues that victory for Bautista for good reason. But I don't know. This just doesn't feel like a fight that should be that far apart. Am I suggesting go bet on Bautista? No, not really. I think what I'm saying is don't bet on Umar. Like, just don't touch this at these odds. Don't touch this fight. I have Umar by decision. I have Umar outboxing him, out-grappling him, out-wrestling him. It's going to be close. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. But I see Umar being that half step ahead at any particular time. Just because essentially Mario's way of winning this fight would be to do the Merab. And even the Merab took till the 4th round to really start to break Umar. And he's only got 3 rounds. So in a 5-round fight, that'd be maybe more interesting, but not in a 3-rounder. And on top of that, part of Umar's gassing, and he's been making a big deal about this, that the broken hand caused him to gas. There is some truth to that. People are like, that's not your lungs, that's not your energy supply, which is true, but if you've ever injured yourself, even just like doing something competitive, but something even like not a UFC fight, there is going to be a chemical reaction in the body, and that is going to cause a certain level of gassing over a period of time. The only problem I have with Umar's excuse is Umar is basically like, well, if I don't break my hand, I will win the fight against Merab. The problem is, how do you change your strategy not to have that happen? And how do you change your strategy to not get injured or damaged in a fight in any way? Because it's not like the broken hand is the only thing that would do that. Similar injuries of severity would cause the same problem. So if you're Umar, you have to solve more than just don't get hurt. Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. Disclaimer, I'm just not a believer in Jailton Almeida. Like, I watch him. I understand the results are there. He's beaten some of the better grapplers heavyweight has to offer in Romanov and Spivak. He's beaten some legit guys in Derek Lewis and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And his only losses to Curtis Blades. I understand. The run has been good. The performance has been solid. It's just, I have a really, really hard time looking at this guy and his shot takedowns, which are predictable, don't have the greatest drive in the world. Like, there's a lot of explosiveness in his body, but the fact that his technique tends to take him to his knees robs it of a lot of drive. And the fact that I have questions about his chin. I have questions about his ability to not get slightly dispirited when he doesn't find immediate success and crushing. And I can't pick him here because the only times we've seen Volkov get crushed is Aspinall, who I honestly think he didn't expect to grapple him. And then you have to go way back to 2013 in Bellator for the Vitaly Minakov fight. I firmly believe Volkov will have issues early, that Almeida will start fast and put him on the back foot and probably get a takedown, probably work for relatively dominant positions. But that Volkov will survive that problem, go on later when Almeida starts to kind of fade, and when the superior striking of Volkov can possibly take over, get a stoppage. That is what I'm saying. Like, this is a guy who did survive on the ground with Fabricio Verdum. Granted, late career Verdum, but Verdum nonetheless. So that's why I'm going with it. That's where I'm going with this. If Almeida wins like instantly, I'm not going to be shocked. And he is the favorite here at minus 190 to minus 225 with Volkov at plus 155 to plus 175. I think that's applicable. But I am going to go with the underdog. Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov. This is such a weird fight because on one hand, I'm like, if Rakic lives up to any of his potential, he could easily win this fight. He has a good kicking game, a good range game. He is 6 inches taller. He is 6.5 inches longer. He has all the physical range, frame, tools to just kind of nullify Murzakanov in a way that like probably should have happened before now, even because Murzakanov is a middleweight masquerading as a 205er. He cuts very little weight. But then you have to deal with the fact that we haven't seen Rakic win in 4.5 years. We haven't seen Rakic do good things in 4.5 years. We've seen him look pretty bad against Magomed Ankalaev, and we've seen him get finished admittedly by injury in the case of Jan Blachowicz, but properly finished by Yuri Prohaska. That's kind of why I feel like I have to go with Mirzakhanov. Mirzakhanov is used to being the shorter guy, the less range guy, because he almost always is. And I'm used to seeing him, and he's very explosive, very quick, very powerful. He's small, but he is also like very dynamically explosive and powerful and fast. He closes the gap like that. Like he is very good and very hard hitting and very accurate. And he can wrestle. Not that I think that's going to be a particular weapon. Rakic does have good counter wrestling. Yeah, I'm going to go with Aspinall Mirzakhanov. To a certain degree, it is a sadness hedge. Because they're, part of me, my Serbian heart is like, man, we kind of finally had something with Rakic. And Jan Blachowicz destroying his leg kind of ruined it. But, Mirzakhanov by TKO. Close odds. -105 to -115 on Rakic. -105 to -120 on Mirzakhanov. So basically even money. And, if I can find that -105 line for Mirzakhanov, that'll be where I put the bet down. And that's the main card. Going down to the undercard, we have Nasrat Haqparast versus Quillan Salkild. This is a really, really interesting fight. Another even money fight. -105 to -120 on Haqparast. -106 to -115 on Salkild. And it's really a question of potential. Salkild has not fought anyone close to Haqparast's level. He's coming from Yanal Ashmouz as his best fight to this. And he looked good against Ashmouz. And he got better as the fight went on against Ashmouz too, which is very, very nice. He's got a well-rounded game. He's got athletic ability. He's got very good size for the weight class. 6 feet tall, 75 inches at 155. That's actually quite insane. And he's got good game plans as well. So like there's a lot to like about him. And it's just like, is he ready for the Haqparast test? Because if you beat Nasrat Haqparast, you're kind of going places. Like the list of people who have beaten him in the UFC is as follows. Bobby Green, King Green, Dan Hooker, Drew Dober, Marcin Held. One of these is not like the others because Held's UFC run was not good. But I also think at the same time, Marcin Held was a very weird fighter. Kind of weird. He also beat Haqparast in his last fight in the UFC after losing the first three to Hadzovic, Lozon, and Sanchez. And then was shown the door or not re-signed. I assume not re-signed because they usually did four fight deals back then. And still do. That seems to be like their magic number. And I guess he just didn't re-sign. But aside from that, everyone goes on to do great things. Talk about Haqparast. Again, a lot of the same things. Very fast hand speed, very good athleticism, all the physical check boxes. Switch hitter who cannot jab from one of his stances, which is weird. He does not jab as a southpaw. He jabs as an orthodox fighter, which is a bit weird. Because he predominantly fights southpaw. But I don't know. It just really comes down to what you're feeling from Salkild. There's no real logical breakdown here because the difference between what Salkild has fought and Haqparast is so large. It's impossible to know. And I think I'm gonna be pessimistic and I'm gonna go with Haqparast. Because I do think that there's a certain level of Salkild has done whatever he wants with his opponents up until now. He's had game plan ideas, which I appreciate. He's had multi-layered attacks. He's been adaptive to what has been in front of him. But there hasn't really been any opponent of his that has given him a hard no, you can't do this. And I have a hard time thinking that Haqparast will not be able to shut down some avenue of attack. That there won't be something that Haqparast could just say absolutely no to. So I've got Haqparast by decision, but it's an even money fight for a reason. And Salkild could be in that special category of guys who just go out there and I don't want to say body Haqparast because no one really bodies Haqparast. I mean, even King Green, Dan Hooker, Drew Dober. Well, Drew Dober did. Drew Dover knocked him out in 70 seconds. So that would be the exception. But yeah. I'm going to have to go that way. Then we have Iron Turtle versus Ikran Alaskarov. I wish I could make this really, really complicated and pick Jung Young Park. I can't. He is smaller than Alaskarov. He is reliant on wrestling, which is not really a great plan against Alaskarov. He does have a solid jab and volume boxing game, but that's about it. And as much as Alaskarov is a goofy mother effer, who I think gets way too much credit, because I remember people were like hyped up about him. It's like, did you know that Khamzat Chimaev said that he was like actually like he had to try against him? And it's like he still knocked him out in slightly over 2 minutes. Like it was still not a good, like he lasted 2 minutes 26 seconds. But anyways, overhyped, yes, but he is a good fighter. He is a solid wrestler. He's got powerful hands. I don't really like his striking. It's kind of goofy and wooden at times, but I just don't think Park has the horsepower. This has all the hallmarks of the losses of Jung Young Park. Guys, he cannot get to a dominant position and just dominate on the ground. This is the Gregory Rodriguez fight. This is the Anthony Fluffy Hernandez fight. This is, to a certain degree, the Andre Muniz fight, where his ability to control on top position is going to be questioned, and the best grappler he's beaten is Albert Duraev. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Alaskarov. It's going to make me sad. Go Iron Turtle. Go for the upset. Anyways, I'm going to say it goes the distance. Minus 225 to minus 250 on Alaskarov. Plus 185 to plus 200 on Jung Young Park. Matusz Rembeski versus Ludovic Klein. This one is interesting. It's a battle of the short kings, the 5'7" lightweights. Although Klein does have that freakish 72.5-inch reach, as opposed to Rembeski's 66-inch reach. And the question here essentially comes down to this. I know how Rembeski fights. I know how Klein fights. And there's going to be a crossover section here, which is the clinch, the chain wrestling, and the wrestling, essentially. And when you're a guy like Gamrot, Klein loses that. Klein's problem is that despite having a range that probably actually would thrive at range, a game that would thrive at range, pardon me, he doesn't really say no to wrestling. He doesn't say no to that mid-range, to clinch, to chain wrestling fun. And that's why I easily picked him to lose to Gamrot. It's also what got him a loss against like Nate Landwehr. And man, Rembeski is not someone who has a history of getting out wrestled. He's not someone who has a history of not winning in that type of fight. Chris Duncan was able to beat him despite losing that type of fight. So obviously that's on the table for Klein. And you could also say Carlos Diego Ferreira also did it and stopped him. But like this guy beat Mika Orobai, who is that guy. He beat Loic Razipov, who is that guy. And I still have no idea how he went the distance with Nick Fiore. I need someone to study Nick Fiore's career. His career was just so weird. Such an unprepared fighter for the UFC level, but still somehow made it to decision with Rembeski and with Chase Hooper. Anyways, Rembeski is a wrecking ball of a fighter. He is a bowling ball power guy. He has powerful kicks. He has powerful punches. He has powerful wrestling. He does get tired, which makes sense because he's a muscle ball. However, and this is important to note, his version of getting tired is just him getting sloppier on defense. He's still offensively potent, and he still actually pumps out the volume when he's exhausted. So I'm going with Rembeski because Klein won't say no to his game. If Klein comes out with a game plan that involves keeping the range and abusing his 6.5-inch reach advantage, I could regret this really quickly. Betting odds-wise, Rembeski is the second underdog I'm taking the night, plus 110 to plus 125, and minus 135 to minus 150 on Ludovic Klein. Abdul Karim El Sawadi versus Matusz Camilo. This is a complete even odds fight, minus 105 to minus 113 on El Sawadi, minus 110 to minus 117 on Camilo. It comes down to this. I trust El Sawadi to win a decision if it goes there. I, however, don't trust him to not get knocked out. Because the thing that really limits him is the fact that he does not seem to have a good chin. Camilo is a powerful hitter. He has his own problems. I don't trust his grappling sense. He's been submitted multiple times. And El Swati could catch that as well. But at the end of the day, I can't really trust El Swati, who's not a submission genius and not a particularly big hitter when he does not have a chin. Camilo by TKO, but if El Swati doesn't get knocked out, I think he does win. Because if it goes to decision, El Swati's winning. If it ends in a submission, El Swati's winning. Like Camilo is the puncher's chance here. I'm just taking it to happen. Walter Walker versus Louis Sutherland. This is the rebook for fights that fell apart in Perth and Rio. Short notice, low prep time. Walker has been doing the weird heel hook stuff. I wouldn't trust that, but he is durable. He has takedowns, and he is a good athlete by the standards of heavyweight. He's clumsy. It's not reliable, but it is reasonably effective. I'm not sure Sutherland is any good. His wins are largely detonating people in the first round. He has some cardio because he fought Slim Trabelsi in Bellator. That went the distance, and he didn't disgrace himself. So I'm going to go with Walker by sub, but I don't know. I don't want Walker's whole heel hook thing to keep working. I want him to either have to learn to be a better fighter or to lose. Unfortunately, this is heavyweight, so I may never get my wish. But yeah, Walter Walker... We'll see. He is a prohibitive favorite, though. I would not be betting on Walter Walker at minus 333 to minus 400. Plus 250 to plus 310 on Sutherland would be the only odds I would think about perhaps betting on. Jose Delgado versus Nathaniel Wood. This is another one that I have to give the disclaimer for. Delgado is someone I completely overlooked in his debut against Hyder Emil, and he won by knockout. And I'm still kind of overlooking him. The reason I'm saying this is because his style is so based on detonating people fairly early with admittedly creative and exciting stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, it's really, really fun. I just don't trust it. It's like it's a super athlete style in a guy that's not a super athlete. It's kind of weird that he's coming out of the MMA lab like that. I think more of that, Jim. But Nathaniel Wood is a tough guy. He's been knocked out once in his career, and that was by John Dodson. I think we forget what a special physical talent he is. Wood is very well-rounded, very... I don't want to say he has a game plan, because honestly, he does a lot of the same things against people, but like he's good at limiting danger. He's good at doing a lot of things, mixing it up, changing it, being the right level of aggressive for the circumstances. And sure, he lost to Muhammad Naimov, but Naimov is, number one, an absolute fit freak, and number two, cheated like the Dickens in that fight to get the W. Otherwise, it's wins over Andre Fili, Morgan Charrier, Daniel Pineda, Charles Jourdain, Charles Rosa. The Rosa one is not exactly particularly amazing, but he's coming off a fight against Morgan Charrier that he won pretty convincingly. And Charrier is not the same kind of dangerous as Ochoa, but he is not Ochoa. Pardon me, Delgado. I'm confusing him with the flyweight Ochoa because I have the same kind of reservation. I have the same kind of reservations about both of them. But I'm going to go with Wood by decision. He is the underdog, plus 116 to plus 126, and minus 143 to minus 162 on Delgado. Could Delgado win? Sure. Would it even be the better thing? Because at 27 years old, if he can beat Nathaniel Wood, and he can do his thing against Nathaniel Wood, and he can melt Nathaniel Wood, I'm gonna have to believe. And that's really it. Then we get to my hot pick, I don't understand these betting odds. Chris Barnett versus Hamdi Adel Wahad. Barnett is plus 310 to plus 340, and I'm picking him. Minus 420 to minus 480 for Adel Wahad is insane. I will say this very clearly. This is a pick of the heart. I love my 5'9" heavyweight, Chris Barnett, who throws spinning heel hooks or spinning kicks and does fun stuff over grindy, grubby Hamdi Adel Wahad. Could Adel Wahad win this fight? Absolutely. He has, on paper, all the tools. He is durable. He is a very good, by heavyweight standards, wrestler. He has a little bit of a boxing game. And obviously, a 5'9" opponent is not going to exploit the biggest problem Hamdi has, which is that I don't think he really has a range game. That being said, his last two fights against Muhammad Usman, which he lost, and his fight against Jamal Pokes, which he won but was crap. did not inspire. His debut against Dante Almeida did, and then he popped for PEDs. So it's not that I don't think Hamdi Abdelwahad shouldn't be the favorite. It's not that I don't totally understand people who are picking him to win. I very much get that. He could do the Marcin Budai to Chris Barnett. He could do a wrestling game against Chris Barnett and put him on his back, and Barnett is not great at getting off of his back. And he could win very easily. But my God, watch those two fights and tell me that you have any interest in betting on this guy at minus 420 to minus 480. It's insane. I'm taking Barnett. Do not follow me down this path, but I am taking Barnett by TKO. As at Maxim versus Mitch Raposo, this is a really easy pick. It's Maxim all the way. Raposo is a guy I'm not going to pick in the UFC. He is not high enough volume for this weight class. He is not a good enough athlete for this weight class. He's got good hand speed and a little bit of pop, but that's it. And some decent like defensive wrestling. But there's not enough to his striking game. There's not enough to his offensive wrestling game to actually impose his will. It's why he's lost pretty convincingly. Do not let that split decision with Andre Lima fool you. I have no idea what that judge was on. But yeah, for all the flaws I see in Maxim, I have kind of the same flaws in Maxim, honestly. He's a little bit too low paced. But he is a better athlete. He is a bigger guy. He is 2 inches taller. He is 5.5 inches longer. He has, I think, a more proven power game. His losses are to Charles Johnson and Tadger Ulanbekov. And the Ulanbekov fight was pretty close. And he had a close first round with Charles Johnson. So, yeah. He's a legitimate UFC level flyweight. Raposo is not. And he is the minus 385 to minus 450 favorite, to plus 290, to plus 340 on Raposo. That makes sense. I'm going to go with decision, but like Maxim could TKO him. Raposo is just like tough and, reasonably scrappy though. And Maxim hurts people a lot, but he doesn't really follow up on it. So I don't trust him to actually get the job done. And then we'll open up with a strawweight belt between Jacqueline Amarim and Mizuki Inoue. I'm going with Amarim here. It is the striker versus grappler, although Inoue is also a grappler in her own right. She's got a cool arm bar. She's got some guard play that she does well. If she gets on top, she's quite good. It's just nobody in this division, or at least very, very, very few people. Like we're talking Mackenzie Dern and... that probably honestly about it should actually be grappling with Jacqueline Amarim. She is that kind of like dangerous jiu-jitsu player. So essentially I have Amarim taking down Inoue and riding out to decision. Now a stoppage is possible. Amarim also actually has some pretty good ground and pound, but the only loss we've seen for Amarim was when she just kind of adrenaline dumped against Sam Hughes. And since then she seems to have fixed her ability to kind of pace herself and not get that kind of excited. Now, to a certain degree, the only third round fight she's had was that Montserrat Caneo fight, so that's a little bit problematic. She had stoppages in the first round against Corey McKenna and against Vanessa Demopoulos, and a second round stoppage against Polyana Viana, but like there just seems to be a more composed, more pacing to her game, less go bong 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 and beat the bongos until you're gassed. So I'll have no problem Inoue can win. Inoue is a cool, like, fun fighter. But, yeah, Amarim she's a grappling monster. And there's just not many people I'd pick to stop her from getting it to the ground. And there's very few people I trust to be able to do anything down there. So, Amarim by decision. She is a minus 400 to minus 450 favorite. And plus 300 plus 350 on Inoue. So... there you go. I might also be overvaluing the fact that Inoue went the distance with Verna Jandiroba, who is I think, more complete fighter than Amarim, but probably is a less singularly dangerous grappler. So, there you go. Anyways, that's the fights. Check out my social medias down below, my Discord server, my video game stuff. It's all there in the link tree. Go, click on it. Do it now. And, yeah, give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscription. Whatever is applicable on the platform that you are listening to me on.